As I'm watching this and editing this, there are so many things that I'm thinking of, and there's so much more that I could have said to answer these questions. I also got a few more questions on my Q&A after I had already filmed this. So if you have any other questions or anything that you want specific answers for, feel free to comment below and I will answer directly. Sorry, Rocky's like choking in the background. I'm so sorry about that. Anyway, I hope that you guys like this video. I tried to answer as much as I could. This video was so long. It was literally an hour and a half and I cut it down to 30 minutes. So, hope you enjoy. Hi YouTube! It has been a hot minute since I've been on here. I have not posted on YouTube since well before our wedding. If you are new here, I'm Quincy and I got married in October 2024. It is now January 2025. I should have made this video a very long time ago. I have been meaning to do this video since we got married. But better late than never, I am going to answer as many questions as I can about our wedding planning, all of that sort of stuff. What do you wish you had saved on and then spent more on? I wish I had saved on my bachelorette and my bridesmaids. Let me explain what I mean. I could have given my bridesmaids a bouquet of flowers or a handwritten note, which I did, but I just feel like I could have really simplified asking my friends to be my bridesmaids. I don't think I needed to do an extravagant box with a bunch of gifts. The reason I spent so much on my bridesmaids proposal boxes is A, because I kept seeing on Instagram and TikTok all these elaborate bridesmaid proposals, and then also because I asked my bridesmaids in December of 2023 and then my wedding wasn't until the next year in October. I just feel like I overdid that on the spending a little bit. And then my bachelorette, I hired a bachelorette decorating company and they were really awesome. They did a wonderful job, and not that I regret hiring them, it just was really expensive on top of the gifts that I gave my girls. That was a really expensive weekend and I feel like it didn't need to be. So that's something I definitely feel like I could have saved on. There's nothing that I wish I spent more on. I feel like I really maxed out every area of our wedding and our engagement period. What is a good timeline for each part of planning a wedding? Vendors, location, etc. I think the first thing that you and your fiance should do is pick a venue and then pick a date. Once you have your date and your venue, everything else just kind of falls into place. For Dylan and I, we were engaged for a really long time. We picked a wedding date really far in advance. So everything as far as finding vendors and stuff like that, that just kind of came together as the planning process commenced. I also will say I got on Pinterest almost immediately just to kind of find an overall vibe, and thankfully Dylan and I had a pretty similar vision for what we wanted, so that definitely made the planning process a lot easier. Was a videographer and a photographer needed? And needed is in all caps. 1000% a videographer and a photographer are both needed. Right from the get-go, Dylan and I decided videography, photography, those are things that we are not willing to cheap out on. After our wedding, after years have gone by, the only things that you have to remember your wedding day are your memories and photo and video. So I would 1000% never regret getting a videographer and a photographer. I also had a content creator there. Follow the Bride, they're amazing. I just wanted all the photo and video that I could get because I love looking back on photos and videos. How to deal with telling people in your family that they don't get a +1 if you haven't met them. Depending on your relationship to the family member, even in regards to friends who might have expected a +1, I think from the get-go we just made it very clear who gets a +1 and who doesn't. We wrote it on our website. We would mention it verbally. We really just wanted an intimate, or as intimate as we could have it, an intimate wedding. People who we know, people who have known us in our relationship. And for the most part, everyone understood that and there were no problems with that. I think just being honest and straightforward is the best way to go about that. Something you wish you had but you forgot. The only thing I can think of on our wedding day that I did not have that I wish I had was concealer. I would have never in 1,000 years thought to bring concealer for my wedding day, which I should have, but my bridesmaids, my mom, and myself all got our makeup done the morning of the wedding. So for our wedding day, I just brought a little clutch with lip stuff, like lip gloss and lip liner, but I didn't bring concealer. And after all of the tears that I shed on our wedding day, my concealer under my eyes was totally gone, so I honestly kind of had dark circles. If you don't have dark circles naturally, then this won't be a problem, but I do have dark circles, and I wish I had my concealer and my little brush to just touch it up throughout the night because I was crying so much on our wedding day. What was your something blue? For my something blue, I had a little handkerchief that my mom got me. I never even showed a picture of that, but I had a little handkerchief and I tied it around my bouquet, and it was a little white lace handkerchief with a light blue writing, or a light blue font or stitching. And then my mom also got me a little bracelet with a little blue bead, and I wore that on my wedding day as well. It was super pretty, and my mom gave me both of those things the weekend of the wedding, and it was super special, and I really loved my little something blue. How did you decide your guest list? So I would say the guest list is honestly what caused me the most amount of stress throughout the whole wedding process, or wedding planning process. Dylan and I were able to come up with our guest list because a lot of our friends are the same, and a lot of our family is like a given, like we knew who we would invite. I wrote down the guest list on a document. I made a group chat with my parents and Dylan, and I said, add who you want to add. What are your thoughts? I don't want there to be any confusion. Here it is. And then about a month before the wedding, there was a bunch of confusion about why so-and-so wasn't invited, or if we could invite so-and-so, if we could add so-and-so. I just wish that that could have been avoided. So I would really recommend clear communication, sitting down your parents, sitting down with your fiance, and just having a big group discussion and just really sort that out sooner than later. Bridesmaids gifts, I actually have a few videos on Instagram and TikTok of everything that I put in the bridesmaid boxes. I gave a perfume, journal, a hair clip. I wrote everyone a little note with a photo of us. I gave everyone a candle. And I forget what else, but then I also had a brunch, so I invited everyone to brunch to present the boxes to them. And it was super special and it was super fun. How did you pick your wedding venue? What kind of things were you looking for? So Dylan and I toured 15 wedding venues, so we definitely were being extremely picky. Some big things that we were looking for that a lot of venues didn't have were venues that had a late reception time. A lot of wedding venues close at 9 or 10 p.m. and our venue, we were able to have our reception until 12 a.m. So that was a big factor. We wanted our whole wedding to be the spot to be. We didn't want to have to go to a restaurant or a bar or an after party. We wanted to just be on one property. Being on one property was another big thing. We didn't want people to have to drive from our ceremony to cocktail hour to reception. We wanted the ceremony space to be the same as the reception space, or at least on the same ground, especially because we had a lot of people traveling from out of town. We just wanted to make it as easy as possible, also eliminate any drinking and driving. Not that people would be drinking at our ceremony, but I guess we did serve champagne. So having it all on one property, that was a really big thing that we were looking for. And the biggest thing, I think, would be just a venue that felt the most like us. We toured a lot of beautiful venues, all the way up to Santa Barbara, Montecito, all the way down to San Diego, La Jolla. Super, super beautiful venues everywhere. And the place that we ended up choosing just felt the most like us. We both loved it equally. We envisioned it. We saw ourselves getting married there from the second we took the tour, and we just knew it was the one. It felt right. How did you determine how many people to invite if you're on a budget? Like I said before, we wanted to include everyone who we felt should be there. However, we really did want to keep it as small as possible. We had about 130 people at our wedding, and that sounds like a large number to some people, but once you really start going through your guest list, it really does add up quickly. Our families alone was about 75 people between our grandparents, our aunts and uncles, our cousins, some of their plus ones. So once you do your family, and then you do your friends, and then if you let some of your friends have their boyfriends or girlfriends or husbands or wives, it really does add up. So we wanted to be as intentional as we could and keep it as small as we could while still including the people who we felt needed to be there. That being said, we were not able to include every person we love and like and adore. I do want to note that our guest list was not contingent on a budget. It was more so us trying to be intentional and have an intimate wedding. What was your favorite part of the day? I don't want to cry. The whole wedding day was amazing and I relive it in my head all the time. There's a moment that was at our ceremony where I looked out into our friends and family while we were standing at the altar. And I remember looking at my best friend from middle school and we made eye contact, and it was just like a very surreal moment. Just to like have a brief like flash before your eyes, like you were just in 7th grade and now you're getting married. And then also at our reception, Dylan and I gave a thank you speech, and looking around at people's faces and just being present on my wedding day. I don't know why I'm tearing up at this. I just was so present on our wedding day, and I really feel like I soaked in every single moment with Dylan, with myself, with our guests, with our friends and family. I just feel like I was so there. Like some people say, oh my gosh, the wedding day, that went by so fast. And I don't feel that way. I feel like I really was there for every moment of our wedding. So the whole entire day was my favorite part. From the morning waking up, being with Dylan, and then being with my bridesmaids and my mom and getting our hair and makeup done, having that moment of girlhood, taking the limo to the venue, getting in my dress, seeing the reception space being set up, seeing the ceremony be set up. Just every single moment was so special. What was your favorite thing that you did? I think definitely one of my favorite things about our wedding and our wedding weekend is that we really did make it a wedding weekend. We had a house in Temecula or Fallbrook, and we stayed there the whole weekend. So we had our rehearsal Friday morning, all of our bridal party and our grandparents were there, and then we all went back to the Airbnb and we all had a pool day, a lounge day, hung out there. We had our rehearsal dinner. The next morning, all my girls came to the house to get our hair and makeup done. Obviously, we had the wedding. And then on Sunday, we had a farewell brunch where our guests who were still in town could come to our brunch. And I just feel like we really maximized our wedding weekend. And it was just so special to see all of the people who traveled to be with us. And it was nice to have a full weekend to really absorb all of the love and just be together for the whole weekend as opposed to only on one day. How long was your engagement? We got engaged January 2023 and then we got married October 2024. So we were engaged for a year and 10 months, so almost 2 years. Biggest tips for the day of how to stay present and cherish everything. Number one, I will say I didn't drink alcohol. I had a couple glasses of champagne and that was it. So mentally I was sober, so I was able to be present. And the second thing that I think was the biggest thing that I did, my friend actually gave me this advice and it seriously made the world of a difference. Throughout the whole wedding day, I kept looking at people, looking at their faces, looking in their eyes, making eye contact. And that has allowed me to have so many more memories where I feel like I can envision the moment. And I seriously remember my whole entire wedding day. I remember what people looked like, what people were wearing, conversations I had. Something that's important to remember on your wedding day is that you are also a guest. You're the guest of honor. You're not the host. You're not the entertainer. You want to be looking at people and really just cherishing and embracing everyone who traveled to be there with you. And I'm so happy that I just let myself be vulnerable. I let myself be open and my heart was so happy. My heart was filled to its brim. I just felt so grateful. And I still feel so grateful. Our wedding was really a testament to how wonderful our friends and family are. Yeah, just being in the moment and being aware that you want to be in the moment. Where did you get your mom's wedding dress altered and what event did you wear it for? I got my mom's wedding dress altered at the Alteration Woman, who was recommended to me by the place where I bought my wedding dress. So she was just a local alteration woman. I don't want to say who it was just because that would give away kind of where we live. But there are a lot of alteration people. And sometimes even the place where you get your wedding dress, they will have an in-house alteration person. And I wore my mom's wedding dress for my bridal shower. And the reason why I wore my mom's wedding dress at my bridal shower as opposed to any other event is because a lot of the women at my bridal shower were also at my mom's wedding. So it was really special for my grandmas and my aunts to be like, oh my gosh, is that your dress, Jamie? Like talking to my mom. And her dress was so cute. The bow on the back, the halter, the pearls. It was so cute and I just felt like I had to wear it. What is one thing you were gonna do but didn't end up doing? We were going to do both a garter toss and a bouquet toss, and we did not end up doing either of those things. I told our wedding planner on the day of our wedding that I probably didn't want to do those things anymore, and she was like, okay, are you sure? So it was a very last minute decision. Certain things take longer than you think they're going to take, which cuts into the time of something else. So for example, my dad's speech was really, really long, and I had already in my head planned on not doing a garter toss and bouquet toss. But my dad's speech being a little longer kind of solidified that. So we didn't do the garter toss and the bouquet toss, and I'm glad that we didn't because we were just able to have more time to dance and to catch up with our guests and to have fun and to not have to worry about being on a schedule or that sort of thing, if that makes sense. This is one that I really don't want to answer, but I've gotten this question a lot. Why didn't Dylan's mom attend the wedding? Dylan's mom did not attend our wedding because Dylan's mom made choices and said some things and did some things that resulted in her not being included in our engagement and in our marriage. So Dylan's mom is the reason why Dylan's mom was not there, and I will leave it at that. What was your favorite song played at the wedding? I have 3 favorite songs that were played at the wedding. The first one would be the processional that Dylan walked down the aisle to. It was Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls, and it was played by our pianist and our violinist, and that was super beautiful. I'd imagine, I wasn't there, but I imagine it was beautiful. And also the song that was played when I walked down the aisle, which was Stuff We Did, and that is from the movie Up. And the movie Up has always been Dylan and I's movie ever since before we even started dating, so that was really special. And then my third favorite song would have to be our private last dance song, which was Nothing by Bruno Major. Every single person in the whole reception room left, including the DJ, including our planners. It was literally just us in our empty reception space dancing to Nothing by Bruno Major, which is also one of our songs, and that was just a super, super special moment. So those would be my top 3 songs of the day if I had to pick. What is one non-traditional and one traditional thing you did at your wedding? I guess keeping it simple, a traditional thing that we did was my dad walked me down the aisle. This isn't really considered traditional or non-traditional, but I entered the ceremony space in a horse-drawn carriage, and I feel like that could be considered non-traditional. That was very special, and it was a surprise. No one knew except for my parents and Dylan, so that was definitely a moment. Rehearsal dinner dress. I will show a photo of my rehearsal dinner dress here. My rehearsal dinner dress was one of my favorite dresses, if not my favorite dress of the whole entire weekend and whole entire life. I loved my rehearsal dinner dress. It's the Orla dress from Grace Loves Lace with the chai, what's it called, underlining or lining. It was so beautiful. It was a moment for sure, and I absolutely loved it. Where did you get your dress? My ceremony dress is by Robert Bullock, and I got it at a local bridal store. And then my reception dress is by Wona Bridal, and it's the winter dress. And that I got at the Wona store in Beverly Hills. What seemed super stressful during planning that ended up not being a big deal? You're gonna hate that I'm gonna say this, but everything that I stressed over was worth stressing over, I would say. And I put my whole being into planning that wedding, and it turned out exactly how I had hoped, so I have no regrets. Looking back, if you could do something differently, what would it be? I will say something that I should have done differently is I did not anticipate or plan for my nerves and how my nerves would impact my eating. Our rehearsal dinner, I had a lot of wine and I did not eat dinner. I was so excited, I was so in the moment. It was all of our close friends and family. So I felt very comfortable, so I had a lot of wine, I had a great night. However, then I did not sleep for that whole night because my nerves were keeping me awake. I had butterflies in my stomach literally the entire night from rehearsal dinner to wedding. I got maybe 3 hours of sleep. And then we woke up super early because we had to start our hair and makeup at 7 a.m. So I was not hungry at all, did not want to eat. Everyone was trying to get me to eat. I could not stomach anything. The entire day, didn't eat. So the whole day I had not eaten. And then at the reception, our food was served. I had a couple glasses of champagne. I was nibbling at my food, but still my nerves were like... So barely ate my dinner. I probably had 5 bites. And then at whatever point it was, I got out on the dance floor. I was having a great time. I was jumping around a lot. And then I had to run upstairs to throw up. And I think that that was a mixture of me not eating, me having a lot of butterflies going on, and drinking a lot of wine the night before. So in regards to that, what I would have done differently is A, not drink a lot of wine on my rehearsal dinner night. But then as far as eating, I don't know what I could have done differently because I was trying to eat and I knew that I needed to eat and I just couldn't. So I don't know how I could have avoided that, but that is something that I wish was different. And this is something else that I just thought of that I wish I had done differently. I should have written my vows way before the night before the wedding. And I did. I wrote my vows months before our wedding. And then Dylan was like, oh, well, I'm gonna wait till a week before the wedding so that it's fresh. So then I was like, okay, I'll disregard my vows and I'll write something a week before the wedding. And then it gets to be a week before the wedding and you are jam-packed and slammed with a million things to do. So then I put off writing my vows until the night of our rehearsal dinner when I got home from the rehearsal dinner. So if you look in my vow book, it is the messiest handwriting. It's all out of order, like I have numbered paragraphs, everything's on a different page. That being said though, I meant everything I said in my vows, and it was still a lovely ceremony. And Dylan's vows were so beautiful, they really knocked my vows out of the park. How many people RSVP'd yes but did not show up? I think we had 6 people who RSVP'd yes and didn't show up. And that was definitely a shocker to me. I honestly did not expect that at all. How many guests did you have? I think I already answered this, but it was around 130. I think we invited 180-ish, and then it ended up being 130. Will you be sharing your wedding budget? I will not be sharing my wedding budget, and that is because my parents paid for our wedding. Dylan and I paid for a few things here and there. We paid for our honeymoon. I paid for a lot of the gifts and things like that. But as far as the bulk of the wedding, my parents paid for all of it. We are really, really grateful and really, really appreciative that my parents did that for us and were able to do that for us. My parents were just super gracious, and our wedding would not have happened the way that it did without my parents. So I don't feel comfortable talking about the cost. How does being married feel different? Being married versus being engaged or dating feels significantly different, and I did not expect that. I feel so connected to Dylan. I really do feel like just Dylan and I are a unit, we're a team. It's hard to explain, but it really is like an emotional, spiritual feeling that changes or that feels different. I think for some people there are a lot of changes going from dating to married. However, Dylan and I already lived together. We had already been together for a long time. We have Rocky. We already have been living as a couple for so long that I didn't expect for a lot to be different. So as far as our day-to-day, a lot stayed the same. I think it really is just emotionally, there's a big difference. You feel like one. I don't know how else to explain it, but I just really feel like Dylan is my other half. Where did you get your bridal outfits? A lot of my bachelorette outfits I rented from Fashion Pass. And then my wedding weekend, morning of our ceremony rehearsal, I wore a Juicy Couture bridal jumpsuit, or bride jumpsuit. And then I also rented a few dresses from Fashion Pass that I wore at our farewell brunch. And same with our honeymoon. I wore a lot of rentals, a lot of fashion pass rentals on our honeymoon. Aww. Best silent moment. On Thursday, Dylan and I and our parents went to the Airbnb so that we could be there the morning of the ceremony rehearsal. On Thursday night, when I was standing out by the pool, I had a glass of wine and I was all by myself. It was so silent and peaceful, and I just was really soaking in the moment. And Dylan took a photo of me having my moment, and it was just a nice little moment to myself. So I would say that was my favorite silent moment. What timeline did you start getting things ready for the venues and all that stuff? Your vendors will know how much time they need to set up, so really I didn't have to do that much as far as telling people when to set up. A lot of the communication was between our wedding planner and the vendors. The only thing that was really kind of more up to me was with the makeup and hair, getting a timeline of which girl was going when, which even that didn't go as planned because one of my bridesmaids showed up 2.5 hours late to getting hair and makeup done, so that kind of threw off the schedule. But as far as timeline for all your vendors, your planner or your venue will discuss with the vendors directly about when and where they need to start setting up. Did you have a set schedule for the day? Yes, we did, almost to a T. Our wedding planner and our event coordinator at the venue, both of them were so amazing. They did such an amazing job at making sure everything ran smoothly. I am super, super eternally grateful for how smooth our wedding day went. Everything was perfectly planned. And I would recommend having some sort of schedule. I would recommend having some sort of planner. It just made everything way easier. What were you most nervous for? I think I was most nervous for probably reading the vows. I think that's also what I was most excited for. So my butterflies in my stomach, it was because I was nervous to be so vulnerable in front of so many people, but I was also so excited to proclaim my love and have that moment. So the butterflies were definitely a mix of nerves and excitement. What ended up being expensive or some things that were surprisingly not expensive? All of the rentals were surprisingly very expensive, or more expensive than I thought. Our dance floor I think was $2,500, which I didn't expect that. To rent all of the chairs and the place settings and all of those things. Our signage, our seating chart, all of the signage was expensive, yet they were rentals, which I wasn't expecting that. Of course, I think it was worth it. I'm not saying it wasn't worth it. It just was more expensive than I had thought it would be. Flowers. Don't even get me started on the flowers. Flowers were way more expensive than I thought. I got several quotes for flowers. They were all very expensive. How did you decide where to have your wedding, local versus destination? I think that Dylan and I both, it was just kind of assumed that we were going to have a somewhat local wedding. To me, our wedding was kind of a distance wedding. It was about 1.5 hours from where we live. So it felt far enough away from where we live to make it feel like a special place. But we weren't getting married in Greece or Italy. Also, I feel like destination weddings are a lot smaller because not everyone can travel to Italy for a wedding. And it just felt like for us and for our friends and family, it didn't feel practical and it just didn't feel right for us. What do you think is okay to cheap out on, and what do you think is important to splurge on? I think photo and video, it's okay to splurge. I think cheaping out, I would say maybe utensils like forks and knives. I don't think that that's something you need to splurge on. Even the glasses, like wine glasses, martini glasses, unless that's super important to you, I didn't feel like that was something I needed to splurge on. Wedding day shoes. I was wearing a long dress the entire day, so I didn't even buy new shoes for my wedding. Did we do a first look? No, we did not. We did a first touch and a first prayer, and we went back to back and held hands and we said a prayer and had a little moment before the ceremony, but we did not see each other until I was walking down the aisle. How did you choose your vendors? We interviewed or had calls with several vendors before choosing them. I had a call with about 3 different DJs, 6 different photographers, etc., etc. We really chose the people who felt like they would be a good fit both with us and our personalities. Also vendors who had worked at our venue and kind of knew the setup and the procedure, and also through recommendations. What is a must for rehearsal dinner and wedding day? I think the biggest thing is just to stay true to what you want and what you like. The things that I thought were important to me, I made sure I had them how I wanted. A lot of people will say, oh, on your wedding day it won't matter. Or like, oh, you won't end up caring about that. But I knew myself, I know myself, and I knew that I would care. So whatever you think is important to you, don't feel bad about it. Do it how you want it, have it how you want it. So then you have no regrets because you execute everything exactly how you want it. Best advice for days leading up to the wedding. Being super present, being super grateful, spending time with yourself. I had a lot of moments of self-reflection and just gratitude and appreciation and just really living in the moment. Favorite little things / details you implemented at your wedding. One of my favorite things that was kind of random was our cocktail napkins. I custom did all of our cocktail napkins. I thought they were super cute. I'm super glad that I did those. Also, our wedding programs were newspapers. It had the story of how Dylan and I met and fall in love. It had photos from our engagement, the proposal, and I really, really thought that the newspapers were a nice touch. They were super cute, and I can't wait to show our kids them. Like, I just feel like it's a nice momentum that we'll have forever. In what order would you recommend wedding planning? So venue first, then a date. So once you pick your venue, then they will tell you what dates they have available. So then you pick a date, and then all of the things that are big, such as photographer, videographer, DJ, band, all of those things I did really, really far in advance. And I'm really glad I did because then I didn't have to think about it or worry about it. A lot of vendors book out really far in advance. My camera keeps dying, so I'm using Dylan's phone now, and I'm just gonna wrap up this video. I have a few more questions that I'm gonna answer. Wedding band's details. My wedding band is just a 14 karat gold band, and then it has little diamonds around it. And the diamonds that are on my wedding band are a similar size to the diamonds that are on my hidden halo. So I think it's super pretty and I really like it. How did you feel on the actual wedding day? I just felt super, super excited and super grateful. I was not thinking about anything else besides me being there on my wedding day, being excited to marry Dylan, being excited to see our friends and family. I just felt so happy. I was very, very happy. It was a very happy day. Which dress was it that didn't fit and how did you fix it? So I found this out after our wedding when I went to the doctors. I gained 20 pounds last year, and that is why my wedding dress didn't fit. It was my ceremony dress, and thankfully my alteration lady was able to fix it. And yeah, thank you Jesus that my dress fit the morning of my wedding, because honestly I didn't know if it would or not. If you had a honeymoon fund, did it cover all of your honeymoon or a little? We did have a honeymoon fund, and we also had a newlywed fund, and we are super grateful and appreciative for all of the people who gifted us money. We actually paid for our honeymoon prior to our honeymoon and prior to our wedding. So all of the money that we were gifted, we used that on our honeymoon for meals and activities. So it was super, super helpful, and we're really grateful for that. I have a lot of questions just asking if I had any regrets. And like I mentioned before, there are things that I maybe would have done differently, but I have no regrets. Our wedding happened exactly how it was supposed to. I couldn't have imagined a better or more beautiful day. How long before the wedding did you go dress shopping? I started dress shopping about a year before our wedding, and I ended up buying my wedding dress in September of 2023. I picked it up in January 2024, and then around springtime I got my reception dress and my rehearsal dinner dress. Did your bridesmaids and groomsmen stay in your Airbnb as well? No, only our family stayed in the Airbnb, and most of our bridal party stayed at a hotel that was nearby, which was nice for them because then they could all carpool and ride together. How did you incorporate faith into your wedding? Our officiant was a pastor from our church, and then we also had my grandmother and our groomsmen and our friend Evan read a Bible verse at our ceremony. And then also in our vows, we just talked about how God is the center of our relationship and the foundation of our relationship. Whew. And I think that's gonna be it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for asking me so many questions. I hope that my answers helped in some capacity. We really did have a beautiful wedding, and we are so grateful for all of our friends and family who made our wedding weekend just the perfect weekend, and a weekend that we will never ever forget and that we will always be so thankful for. I love you guys, and I will see you in my next video.